Hey friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and I'm back with another kind of week in the life video, trying to get back into the habit of recording. As you guys may know, I recently announced that we are pregnant with our 8th child, and I've kind of been having a rough first trimester, so I've been struggling to keep up with making videos. This week I thought I would kind of show you what I've been up to. I've had days where I've felt a little bit better. I have days where the nausea seems almost gone. And then all of a sudden, I'll wake up the next day and it'll hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'll have to spend the majority of the day kind of lying on the couch and parenting from the couch. So it's just kind of hit or miss. But as I'm in my second trimester now, I know that I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and Lord willing, very soon I will feel much better and I can get back to producing the same content that you guys are used to from me. So for now, this week we just did a lot of outside work, trying to keep up with the garden before it kind of gets out of control for me. I have to do a little bit every week, or else, the weeds will get unmanageable and, things just get out of control very quickly. So as you'll see, we did a lot of outdoor work. As far as kitchen work, I've been doing the bare minimum when it comes to meals. I had questions when I made my pregnancy announcement about how I keep up with kitchen work when I don't feel very well. And as you can see here, I try the best I can to make hot meals for my kids, but I am relying on a lot more convenience food lately. You'll see that this is store-bought bread, and I'm not doing a lot of baking right now since I don't feel well, and that will just have to do. We do what we need to do in order to survive these difficult seasons. Lately, I've been starting my days out in the garden. It gets light out a lot earlier than usual, and so we have been waking very early, and the first thing I do is go outside after Adam leaves for work at about 6:30, and I start watering the garden. This is one of the downsides of these metal raised beds that I put in this year. I'm finding that they need watered much more often than an in-ground garden or other raised beds that I've had. They dry out very quickly, and so I've learned by, I guess, failure over the last couple of weeks, there are some crops that seemed stunted in growth because they weren't getting enough water. And so now I make sure to get out here every morning and then every evening right before I go to bed and give everything a very thorough watering. And since I've been doing that, things have been kind of coming back to life and greening up again. And I'm really happy with how the garden looks at this point in the year. Right now, we're producing strawberries, and so whoever's out to help me as I'm watering gets to nibble on a few. The kids really enjoy that treat. And I grow strawberries mostly because I feel like eating them fresh in the garden is just one of life's greatest pleasures, and I'm really glad that the children get to experience that. If you've never tasted a warm, fresh strawberry, you're really missing out. You need to grow some strawberries just for that experience. Our big project for the week was moving our meat birds, our Cornish cross chickens, out of the garage brooder and getting them out on grass. They're getting big and stinky and making quite a mess in the garage, so the time was here to fix that. This is our zip tie dome. It's a kit that Adam ordered, and this is what we use as our chicken tractor. We leave it set up year round, so we just pull it out when we're ready to put the chicks in it. And so as you can see on this day, the little boys are playing while the rest of us are getting to work in moving the birds outside. You guys might remember from previous videos that we recently purchased 30 Cornish cross chicks. We're raising these for meat. And then as soon as they're processed, we have 30 Freedom Ranger chicks coming. It's another meat bird variety. And we've raised both of these breeds in the past, but I've never kept detailed records on I guess the cost of raising them, how much we spend on feed. And so I really want to this year do a comparison that's very detailed to determine which of these breeds is more effective for us to raise. The girls took over these chores with the chickens recently, and they are doing an amazing job. I am extremely proud of the responsibility they've been showing. They're very thorough in keeping both the coops and the brooder clean and keeping the birds well fed. So it's been a great opportunity for them to step up and contribute to the family. So a chicken tractor is basically just a portable coop that the birds live in outdoors on grass, and you move it every day. It looks very lightweight, this zip tie dome, because it's made out of PVC pipe, but it's actually heavy. The wind can't blow it over, but it's also light enough that with 2 or 3 of the children, they can move it. And we do move it once a day when the chicks are this size. And as they get a little bigger, they'll kill the grass if we don't move them twice a day. And they can just kind of fertilize the grass. They forage for what bugs and things are available in that little patch of grass that they're on. And it works out very well for us because meat birds can make quite a bit of mess. Since their job is basically just to eat and grow, obviously they produce a lot of waste too. And so this is a way to let that waste fertilize the grass, help things grow, and just kind of manage the mess a little more easily. Now we have livestock guardian dogs that patrol this area to keep predators from digging under and getting to these birds. If you don't have something like a livestock guardian, I wouldn't suggest a setup like this for your meat birds because predators could very easily get under this and destroy your hard work here in keeping these birds. So definitely have some kind of guardian dog to help you. So left in our brooder, we have our 5 guineas that we're raising, and we just have 4 Mystic Moran birds to add to our egg-laying flock. And I think they're happy to have the extra space now in the brooder. They will move out probably next week. Our next job this week was to fertilize the garden. As I mentioned, some of the plants were looking a little weak and kind of yellow, I think from underwatering, and I was hoping that this fish fertilizer would perk them up. This is the fertilizer I use early in the growing season. It's very easy to use. You just put a tablespoon in a gallon of water, pour it directly on your garden beds. As the season moves on, I stop using the fish fertilizer and I move on to making my own Comfrey fertilizer. So this is Comfrey. If you don't know what the plant looks like, it's beautiful. I love the little purple flowers. And you can see my dogs like it too. They've been laying and bedding down here in the middle of it and destroying this plant, but it will survive. So Comfrey is like the homesteader's best friend. I'll talk a little bit about the uses for this. So historically, Comfrey has been used for wound care. Soldiers in wars would have Comfrey used to help stop the bleeding in their wounds. It also would help heal wounds. So it's great. You can grow it for those purposes. But more importantly, I find that it's a great fertilizer. Comfrey has the exact nutrition in it that plants need to grow. Things like nitrogen and phosphorus. So when the Comfrey breaks down, it will help feed your other plants. In some cases, I just chop the Comfrey leaves and use them as a mulch around the base of my young fruit trees. So I'll just lay the leaves around, it will suppress weeds, and then it will also, as it breaks down, feed the soil and help that tree grow healthy. Another thing that we like to do is what we're doing right here. We're just pulling off the outer leaves of the plant, and when you do that, the plant will continue to grow throughout the growing season, and you can do multiple harvests of these leaves. But we just rip off the outer leaves and we're grabbing some of the stems that the dogs completely destroyed that are kind of knocked over. And we're just kind of chopping it and filling our entire 5-gallon bucket with as many leaves as we can get. Now once we fill our bucket with the leaves, we're going to top it off with water, and then we'll put a lid on it and we're going to let it sit for a minimum of a month and it will ferment. It will get bubbly and stinky and all of the nutrients in that comfrey will begin to break down and kind of infuse the water that it's sitting in, and then that will make a very strong fertilizer, much like the fish fertilizer, that you can then dilute into a gallon of water and use to feed your plants. And we've done this for the last couple years, and it's been very successful at giving our plants a little boost of nutrition and life. And I love it. It's free. It's something that we can grow here on the homestead to be a little more self-sufficient, and it does a great job. So if you're looking for a fertilizer, I highly suggest trying Comfrey. As I mentioned, this was the week of just doing garden maintenance. These are things that need to be done in order to keep the garden growing healthy and strong, and just kind of managing things so that they don't get out of control. Now, the best way to manage weeds is with prevention. And so right now I am mulching my garden beds. My plants are now big enough that I can put a layer of mulch around them. And you do this for a few reasons. Bare soil loves to grow life. So if you have a patch, if you've ever noticed, if you have a patch of bare soil on your property, something is eventually going to grow there. If you don't plant seed, weeds will find their way there and they will eventually grow. And so it's the same in your raised garden beds. If you have spots of bare soil, especially in these beds that have plants that are spaced out pretty far away, you're going to be doing a lot more weeding if you don't have something covering that soil. As a bonus, when you cover the soil, you help retain a little more moisture into the soil underneath. And as I mentioned, I'm having a problem with these beds needing watered very frequently and the soil drying out. And so by keeping a layer of mulch on top, that will help retain that moisture. Right now you can see I'm putting mulch on this bed of potatoes. And that's one thing, when you grow potatoes in a raised bed, you can't hill up dirt the same way that you would if you're growing them in ground. And so putting that layer of straw mulch up around the potato plants kind of serves as hilling and help keeps the light from getting to any potatoes that might be kind of growing near the surface. As you know, with potatoes, that light can cause them to turn green and make them inedible, so that mulch will help prevent that. Now you can use anything for mulch. We've tried a variety of things here over the last 7 years. One of the easiest things to use is grass clippings. So if you have a push mower that has a bagger on it, just save those grass clippings, put them around your plants, and as those break down, they'll also feed your plants as a fertilizer, and that's great. A lot of people will use spent hay. You can use wood chips. You can use things like the plastic landscape fabric that you see on the ground here. That can also be a mulch barrier for plants. But what we choose to use is straw. We have a friend that grows our straw and hay for us, and that works out great. The next order of business this week is pruning. Right here I am pruning my basil plants. I just pinch the top leaves off near where a set of new little leaves is growing. I'll show you here. You can see the little leaves right there. And pruning will keep your plant from growing tall and leggy. This will help your basil plants bush out and get huge and full, and I have great results doing this. Then I save my little prunings here, and those will be added to dinner. That's another maintenance project that has to be done this time of year, making sure all my tomato plants are pruned, the peppers, the basil, just going through and giving everything the best chance of production possible. And that's really the season that we're in right now. You know, most things have been planted, so we just have to maintain what's going on here. You can see our blackberries are flowering. I'll kind of take you around and show you what's growing right now. Our flower towers here, these are Dollar Tree towers I ordered online a couple years ago, and they mostly have flowers and herbs like basil in them, and they're doing great. The buckets in between them have my pepper plants in them, and you can see they have some fruit on them. It's very exciting. These pepper plants, because they were started early in the house under grow lights, are already producing. And the yellow monster peppers from Baker Creek seem to be winning the race on production so far. So in the rest of these flower towers, I do have some little empty holes here, and I'm going to go in and put some bush beans in those holes. They grow great in there. That'll give us some extra beans. Back here, you can see my loofah plants are getting nice and big, and they're starting to vine out. And so I'm trying to train them to go on the fence, and then those will grow all along the fence line. They vine very long, and they'll be full of beautiful flowers. It's just gorgeous. I can't wait to show you guys later on in the season. This bed of mint needs mulched. I'll lay down some cardboard in the areas and then put straw over it, and that will help suppress a lot more weeds. Obviously have to enjoy a fresh strawberry as I'm out here walking around. I snack quite often on the strawberries as I'm out here whenever I see fresh ones. But things are just really starting to take off. You can see my potato tower here is just huge and lush. In this bed I've got my winter squash planted and more potatoes over here. Everything is just really starting to take off. We've had some days of rain and these beds have really loved it. Back here we've got some peppers, tomatoes, and then okra all along the back bed. We've got pole beans here, radishes, lettuce, cucumbers, celery, just little things tucked here and there in all of these beds, nasturtium. We've got more pole beans and parsley over here. As you can see, some of these plants are looking a little yellow, as I mentioned. The fertilizer will really help. Got more pole beans. These are all bush beans. And then in here we've got some zucchini and a little sunflower in the middle that's going to be really pretty when it grows out of there. And then all along here in the ground are my tomatoes. And then there's a little row of peppers. And I'm very excited because this week I found my very first fruit on one of the tomato plants. And let me see if I can find it for you. So there we go. As June comes along, we'll start to see more fruit growing on these plants, and it's really exciting. All the work is starting to pay off, and I just enjoy watching everything bloom and come to life because it's been a lot of planning and work to get to this point. My lettuces and other greens like Swiss chard are really doing well here. You guys might remember a lot of this lettuce was started in milk jugs and was winter sown. And it's really getting lovely. I can't wait to have fresh salads pretty soon. We'll just be harvesting lettuce every day for our dinner. Back here, I planted a row of zinnias and cosmos. It's going to be really pretty. And then those will be for cutting and bringing bouquets inside the house. The girls really enjoy that. This bed is all kale. And then we have some mustard greens over here that already bolted due to the heat. That's unfortunate. I rarely have good results in the spring with mustard greens, so we'll just save the seed and try again this fall when the weather is a little cooler. I do much better in the fall with some greens like that. My radishes in here, we've been kind of harvesting ones that are ready here and there, and then the rest of them, I'm hoping they'll bolt. I actually like seed pods from radishes better than the radishes themselves. And right here, my cabbages are being destroyed by bunnies. They're coming in, they're eating a lot of the lower leaves and have even destroyed 3 or 4 whole cabbage plants, which is really upsetting. So I'm trying to trap them, and we're going to work on, I'll show you later on, some other things I'm going to need to do to solve that problem. But first, here's my garlic bed. We planted this last October, and I wanted to show you how effective that mulch is. So we put a really thick layer of straw mulch down here when we planted this. And as you can see, there are a few thistles that came up through the mulch, but really not that bad. So that layer of mulch, if it wouldn't have been there, this whole bed would have just been full of weeds. But because that mulch was down there suppressing the weeds, I haven't weeded that area once since last October. This is all calendula right here. And then we've got some more squash in the back. This will all need mulched too. I'm getting to that next. My carrots are in here, and as you can see, I had some very spotty germination with my carrots. I'm going to need to go in and kind of fill in some holes, but overall, we've got some carrots growing, and I'm happy about that. Let's see what else I can show you. I have a lot of weeding to do in here, so ignore that. Back here, we just have some random straw flowers growing. Those were also winter sown. Rosemary. What else? More strawberries back here in our towers, and then just some other random tomato and pepper plants. And this is the other thing that the bunnies have been destroying. They've been eating all of my leaves off of my pepper plants. This one down here they completely chewed down, and I just left it. I'm hoping that maybe it will come back to life. And oh my goodness, these bunnies are just so frustrating. And we've taken measures to try to keep them out. Let me show you that. This is a rabbit fence. It's made specifically to keep rabbits out. You can see the holes at the bottom are so small that the rabbits can't fit through them. And then as the fence gets a little higher, the holes get bigger. And so what our genius rabbits apparently have figured out is that if they jump over the small holes in the bottom, they can fit through. And I've literally watched them. I've chased them out and watched them do that. They jump 2 feet up in the air through the top holes. So what we're going to have to do is take some chicken wire probably and go around the whole length of the garden with it if we want to keep them out. And it's just a huge chore that I'm hoping to get to this week because I'm losing too many crops to these bunnies right now, and it's extremely frustrating. So that's about all I've been up to this week, you guys. I'm just trying to do the essential things, and right now the maintenance in the garden is pretty essential if I don't do it. And then otherwise it's just being there for my children and making fun summer memories in the warm weather. And so that's what we've been doing, trying to fit school in when we have the time, and just being together as a family, and me trying to rest as much as I can and just support my body and keep it healthy through the pregnancy. So I pray that you guys are having a great week. We will see you next week and with another video. Until then, friends, we'll see you later. Bye.